Sonic gridwork can take place in a lot of ways. It can be you playing an instrument out in nature. I can even see people like clacking rocks together, like using sticks and rocks to make sounds. Oh my gosh, yes. Welcome to Activations with JJ Ascension Message. In today's episode, I will be talking all about how words and vocabulary can either hinder or enhance our ascension journey as a collective, as well as exploring the topic of sonic gridwork. These are both really fascinating topics I can't wait to dive into with you. So let's get started. Hello, welcome, friends. If you're new, that light language is the part of me that wants to step forward and say hi. And I notice that every podcast episode is a little different part of me because I'm so multidimensional, just like all of you. It's fun to hear what frequencies want to come through to set the stage, set the tone for this particular episode. And of course, it's very important for this one because we are talking all about words, vocabulary, honestly, sound, and how we can utilize these tools to further our ascension journey individually and as a collective. I want to start off with a little story for you. As a starseed, I have always felt words are kind of hard, like regular language. I think this is why I studied linguistics and foreign languages, because I wanted more ways to express myself. But like just my native language of English wasn't enough. I felt like I wanted to share things with people in ways that couldn't just be put into words. And so I've really struggled all my life in trying to help people understand, like, both logically but through the heart space, what I'm trying to say. This has actually come through a lot in my marriage. So with my partner and I, it's like that I'm trying to say something and the words just aren't sufficient. That's why light language is so amazing, for one, and why I'm so excited to currently be in the midst of our light language group mentorship and light language quantum leap courses. But I really have felt that way for a long time. And this became abundantly clear when I was watching a movie, like this whole concept and idea of how language can muddle things and prevent you from being able to convey what you really want to say. I watched the movie The Giver. Now, this is also a book. Some of you might have read the book. I first watched the movie, but in this movie, it's sort of a post-apocalyptic dystopian time period where the government, you could say the government, the powers that be, have certain stipulations and standards of how things need to be. One of these things that comes forward in the movie and in the book is the idea of precision of language. So there's a part in the movie where the young girl says something like, "I love him," because she's talking about, her first love, or something around that love. And her mother's like, that, precision of language, what does love mean? It's just kind of going off on that idea. But the concept of this is that what is each and every word we're speaking out of our mouth really mean? Like, how can we actually be more precise with our language? Which reminds me of one of the 4 agreements, which is to be impeccable with our words. And all of this goes back to integrity. So how can we harmonize the words that we use to convey information or to express thought with our true intentions and being integrity with what the purity of what we're really trying to convey? We all know and have heard the idea that in the beginning was the Word. And there is no doubt this podcast is not trying to convince you that words are powerful. I'm sure you've heard it from everybody else. But the idea of these sounds, the idea of sound being so important. And of course, in our human experience, it goes beyond just a sound, because we're not all speaking light language yet, although I predicted we will someday really be leaning into that. we are using a common vocabulary, and we are trying as a collective to unify that vocabulary, which reminds me of all the ways that linguists have attempted to create ways for making harmony among peoples by harmonizing their language, which doesn't always work. It can backfire, because taking away people's language is also a way that you can take away that cultural identity. So this is a very politically charged subject in some ways. I want to kind of boil it down to a few other things for you, just food for thought, right? This podcast is really about food for thought. It relates to something that came forward for me not too long ago. So I am co-creating a container called Sacred Initiation Journey with my friend Anna. Some of you have heard me talk about it. It's a mystery school. There are many offerings within Sacred Initiation Journey. And what I do in that particular area, it morphs and changes according to the needs of the collective, because Anna and I will come together and we will feel into what's needed, what is really being called for and called forth. And recently, we talk a lot about sovereignty in that particular, in many of the courses that we do. Some of them are on demand, some of them are live, and some of them are hybrid. We actually have a new cohort coming up, and the doors for registration are open for our Sacred Initiation Journey for the 3 lower chakras. We have root, sacral, and then we have solar plexus, guided by Isis and Hathor and Green Tara. It's a really beautiful experience. But as we've been navigating that, the idea of the word sovereignty is always at the forefront. And it occurred to me I would say like a month or two ago. I was navigating this word sovereignty because it was being thrown around in different ways by different people on Instagram and podcasts, and it came forward like through lots of different sources. I was like, why is this word coming to the forefront like this? And all of a sudden it occurred to me that people were talking about it in ways that weren't cohesive. It didn't match up. And I was like, wait, doesn't everybody know what sovereignty means? And my guides were like, no, they don't. And so when you throw around the word sovereignty, it can mean one thing to one person and something completely different to another person, because we have not unified our vocabulary. The vocabulary we're currently using is not, it's charged. It's got some programming attached to it. We're still kind of, I guess you could say we're purifying the language. That's what's wanting to come forward right now. Some of what I'm going to be saying to you is stuff I learned right now, because I'm channeling. As I sat down to do this, I knew it was going to be a free flow. So thank you for your support. And I'm actually tuning in right now as I even present the idea that the words may not be the words, that the words are so complex. They're attached to so much programming. I feel like a lot of us have an attachment to words in a way that is not serving us. So even broaching this subject is bringing up some feelings in you, potentially in your physical body and your emotional body. What is sovereignty, for instance? So do you know what I did? I went on the internet. This is something very close to like what I did with the word prosperity. I don't know how many of you remember me talking about the word prosperity in a podcast a few months ago. So like spring 2024. But that word was also something we didn't quite understand. I feel like I've talked about this with my friends before. We're almost creating a new dictionary for New Earth vocabulary to unify the meaning of each thing, to clarify it, to purify it. The word sovereignty has a lot of meanings. It's very connected to political issues. So that tainted the word. As I brought it in, I was like, oh, well, that's got some different frequencies into it. So when we throw it around in sort of the self-help, self-development, spiritual community, what are we really meaning? I know a lot of us feel like I do. When you say a word, you feel the word, the frequency of the word first, and then you put some label to it, which is sovereignty. It's more of a feeling than it is that word creating the feeling. The feeling creates the word, not vice versa. But can we be more specific with that feeling behind the word? Because when I feel the word sovereignty, it could mean something completely different than when someone else feels the word sovereignty and uses it. So what do? How do we come together and create a unified language that is more clear to everybody? We go back to the frequency behind what we're trying to say, and we call in maybe it's another word we need. Or maybe we need to say and preface and qualify what that word means for us at the bare minimum until we get to a point when everybody is using them in the same framework. And if that word doesn't fit, we choose a different word. Let me share with you some other words in addition to sovereignty that I have felt carry a lot of conditioning and programming and have mentioned it to you guys. 5D. For me, 5D denotes a linear sense of things. So 3D, 4D, 5D, all of that denotes a sense of linear. And we are transitioning from linear to multidimensional. So when we say the word 5D, sometimes I think, I could probably say that differently. And there are many reasons why I use certain words. I do use them intentionally because sometimes the larger percentage of people use that word. And so in order to help them have a frame of reference for what I'm saying, I need to use 5D. Another word is new earth. New earth. So just thinking about what that means, what does that really mean when we say new earth? It's spoken of in a lot of different ways by a lot of different belief systems. Christ consciousness also. Higher consciousness. Higher consciousness also denotes a linear scale of measurement. There's lower and there's higher. How about the words simply positive and negative? What if we looked at those words from a more, you could say, science-based perspective, where there's no judgment on whether something's positive or negative? It's simply a charge, an expression of a field of energy. Because when we rate something above something else, we're then, causing division and separation. Now, let me remind you, we are living in this world, in these human bodies, and we are bridging almost like two realities, but more than two realities. We are helping bridge the consciousness of the collective from a linear duality, you might say, into a multidimensional awareness. And so sometimes, like I said when I was talking about my word 5D, we use words as a bridge. It may not be the ideal, most aligned version of that word, but we have to modulate what we are saying so that they can even, not they, but people can even grasp it. Parts of our own consciousness can even grasp it. So this is, I don't want to say it's a conundrum, but it's a thing. It's a thing. And I was so connected to this idea of sovereignty and what it meant for people that I mentioned it to my friend Anna. And next week, we're doing like a pop-up offering. I call it a pop-up offering because it's not like we gave tons of advance notice, but it's a pop-up. And it's a 3-day experience, online and free, that you can co-create with us called Path to Sovereignty. If you sign up, you'll still get the playbacks if you can't attend live, but it's taking place on the 11th, 12th, and 13th of September 2024 at 8 a.m. Pacific. So if you can join us, there's a link below. We're going to talk a little bit more about redefining vocabulary and redefining, I want to say redefining, but bringing the word sovereignty into alignment by supporting it with what does it really mean? And in saying that, my guides are like, watch your words. This is happening in real time, people. They're like, what does it mean? Are you trying to say that there's a meaning that lies outside? Because the meaning comes from those who are using the word. Those who are using the word. And this takes me back to my college days when I was studying linguistics. Because this book that we were assigned to read, I'll try to find it. It was a very long time ago, friends. I'm kind of old. I'll try to find this book from college and remember but the idea of the book, let me tell you the idea of the book. A language only means what the people speaking the language assign it to mean. So when it comes out this group that says this is what the word should mean, an entire other group can come along and say, no, we reject that and we want to use it this way. That's where you have colloquialisms, right? That's where you have the different, what somebody with a purist in the linguistics field might say, they've corrupted the language. Not really. They've just found the power of it and they've adapted this word to be used for what they want it to be used. And as long as the rest of the people in that collective understand what that word means, you're good to go. But then there's issues if, you have one word and it means one thing in one place and one thing in another place. This happens in English. I'm not going to talk about the words that mean the different things because it's kind of funny sometimes. But the idea, again, is that we assign the meaning to the word. The word in and of itself is neutral. Although they're reminding me about my next topic, which is sonic gridwork. Each sound that we make with our mouth holds a frequency, almost like each syllable. Sa, vren, t. And English is full of a lot of consonants, which has its pros and cons. Knowing other languages, like I am fluent in Spanish, I feel that Spanish, one, it's easier to learn, in my opinion, because the vowels all say the same thing. A, e, I, o, u. In English, vowels can say a bunch of different things. So I guess maybe you could say it's more multidimensional, but then it is easier to sort of, I want to say warp, but change the words. So in Spanish, you've got those vowel sounds, which are very powerful, so powerful. And we know, like, even from Egyptian records, that the vowels weren't even put in to the words written because they were so powerful. So say, for instance, the name Toth was not with an O in the middle. We just put an O in there. We just assume that there was some kind of sound like that. Now, I am by no means an expert in this, and if you have any resources regarding what I'm talking about, please put them in the comment section if you're listening on YouTube, because I'm sure there's lots of people out there that want to learn more about this, and there are people who have spent their entire lives studying what I'm talking about. So don't take my word for it. However, you get the idea. I'm trying to bring this forward so that you can understand this concept. So sound. And of course, we talk about the words Om being the sound that created the universe. Om, the O to the M. O to the M in the mouth and the shape of the mouth. And what that means, and the fact that our mouths and the shape of the mouths can create shapes and geometry. So much to it, right? As we talk about sonic grid work, it's funny because I just realized just recently I started creating these messages for my starseed gridwork community that are a monthly message, but instead of just being a channeled message like I have here on my podcast, it's a guided gridwork journey. A guided gridwork journey. So I took and I recorded an entire interactive gridwork that the person can do listening to the recording. We're not all doing it live on a Zoom. And so many times our guides stopped they said, stop the recording. And they had us do light language or draw light language or do hand light language. This is why I have a theory. I'm emphasizing light language so much this month. And I will say, we actually haven't begun the 2 courses yet. There's a beginner's course and there's an intermediate advanced light language course. So we start on the 8th of September. The doors are open for a week after that. So until the 14th of September. So depending on when you're listening to this, if you still feel called to join us, you've been thinking about it, now is your chance to jump in. I've really been trying to consider how frequently I want to put these on. And it feels like it'll be about twice a year, in case you're wondering, because I know some people are like, but when are you going to do it again? So I typically do spring and fall. So it'll be early spring and fall. But it's so important for us to connect with our light language skills. However we do it. Some people are just doing it on their own. You can absolutely do it on your own. Just call in your inner child, play, listen to other people's light language, draw, get out some crayons, color, see what wants to come through. And the reason, again, I'm talking about this is because we're transitioning into the second topic for the podcast, which is sonic gridwork. And I have to give the credit to this, for this, I should say, to my friend Sabrina, who is a beautiful soul. She is a forum moderator in our Starseed Gridwork community. She's kind of one of the people that comes in and she's assisting and supporting in so many different ways. She's so gifted. And you can find out more about her through the link below. She's also a poet, but she's very, very inspired. And as we've been talking about ways to support the community, she got this idea about 4 months ago to do a sonic gridwork challenge. Now, we're actually going to kick it off this month. So if you are part of the Starseed Gridwork community or you join the Starseed Gridwork community, guess what? You get to be part of our Sonic Gridwork Challenge, which is going to last a certain amount of days. And every day there will be a different assignment on how to use sound to assist Gaia to grid Gaia, I should say. Now, it doesn't all incorporate spoken light language either. Sonic gridwork can take place in a lot of ways. It can be, singing, obviously, singing or spoken light language. It can be you playing an instrument out in nature. I can even see people like clacking rocks together, like using sticks and rocks to make sounds. Oh my gosh. Yes, the tribal ways coming back. Or maybe you play an instrument and you're like, I'm going to take my flute out there. I'm going to take my drum or my handpan or whatever it is. Why are you seeing the proliferation of so many people with their handpans out in nature? Are they just doing it to get views and likes and be on TikTok? No, they're gridding Gaia with their sound. Oh my goodness. This is what we're being called to do. Getting in a group and singing, more than one person. Over the last few months, so my gridwork trip in England, when we were in West Kennet Longborough Neolithic tomb, we opened a portal by creating a circle of sound with all of the people there. And I was guiding this. The same thing happened at the Mount Shasta conference recently at our opening dinner, which was funny because when I did it, I was like, why am I doing this right now? It was very casual. We weren't really, there was no stage. There wasn't even a microphone. I started singing really loud. I mean, we did say, I didn't just like clink my glass and be like, attention everyone, and then just start wailing in light language. I promise it did not look like that. My friend Queenie and I did provide like the little opening channeled message for everybody. But we announced it. I stepped in and all of a sudden it was like it wanted to be a song, and it was like an audience participation song, and I had everybody sing these notes, and then I did light language on top of it, and Queenie did the same thing. Well, guess what? We did it again at the lake by Mount Shasta when we were with Paula Venus, and again at the top of the mountain, the tippy top, no, but a part of the top of the mountain with Paula Venus with our excursion. We had 60 people all making sound, and all of it was gridding, creating, stabilizing, whatever it was, through sonic grid work. Interestingly enough, when Sabrina and I were developing this idea, I think it was one of us saw somebody taking a Bluetooth speaker outside and playing songs. Actually playing songs. We have these incredible devices and technology where we don't need all the instruments right with us. We can go to the top of a mountain and play a song. So if we don't have a whole tribe to come with us and sing and create the sound, we can bring our Bluetooth speaker to do it whenever we feel called. And I want to give you an example of this. This happened to me the other day. This has never happened to me before, okay? Honestly, I'm not the person with the Bluetooth speaker blaring it wherever I am. I tend to use my voice, my light language. But I was standing at the end of the pier by my office in Los Angeles. I walked all the way out to the end of the pier, and it was a very quiet day. There were only a couple people fishing off the end of the pier. My intention was to call the dolphins in, and it's sort of funny what ended up happening. My intention was to call the dolphins in, and I ended up actually being called. It was like, turn on your phone. I only had my phone with me. Put your phone on, turn up the volume at the end of the pier and out to the ocean, play this song, Spirit Voice of the Enchanted Waters by the Australian Chamber Orchestra and William Barton. He is an Indigenous Australian singer and vocalist and musician. If you heard my podcast a couple of weeks ago about Australia, you might remember that song. That's the song I got called to play randomly. And so here I am holding up my phone. We got two fishermen on either side. I don't think they're carrying. I looked like I was meditating. So I was just like, oh, well. And so I was playing this song out there. I thought I was calling in the dolphins. I'm sure it got to the dolphins. The dolphins did not come, though. What I did feel was a reconnecting of North America, the land, with Australia. A reconnection and a longing for the land to be reconnected. Just like I feel the people will eventually have a stronger desire to be reconnected. There are many people weaving together slowly but surely the cultures and the traditions on a small scale. I know a lot of people have a lot of opinions about the United Nations. The United Nations is a reflection of the collective desires. So whatever's going on in it, when we shift our desires collectively, it will reflect it, or it will turn into something different or whatever. But same thing with like some of these different gatherings that are happening with wisdom keepers. There was a beautiful soul, and I will put the link in the notes below because I apologize, I cannot remember the name, but I joined this summit, a sacred ancestry, I think is what it was called. And she had gathered people from all different cultural traditions, wisdom keepers. Oh my gosh, it was incredible. All these different ones. And I truly believe it was gridding. It was preparing us for the eventual gathering of councils from those cultural traditions, from those places on the planet, right? Because it starts with the one, and then the councils, and then bigger councils, and then the whole country or the group of people, and they make peace one by one. It's a domino effect. Peace, peace. They make peace. They weave together. You can also do it backwards, like macro to micro, what I'm just talking about, continent. So as we do grid work on the continents and repair the rift, quote unquote, like energetically, but also physically, they were separated. We're weaving back together. Now, this doesn't mean that we're going to experience the cataclysm that would be if we actually felt the plates shift back into Pangea, right? At a rapid rate. I mean, it could be slow, but rapidly, that would be a little bit rough. But energetically, as they reconnect, we will feel a harmonization amongst the peoples of the earth. Isn't that beautiful? It's wonderful to think that we can have an impact on what's going on at a global scale, on a global level. So this is, sonic grid work. Simple. Do it by yourself. Do it with people. I highly recommend doing it with others. Maybe find one or two other people. What's coming forward right now in my awareness. And some of you heard the September monthly energy update, as well as the September channeled message all about the divine family. But the three. So if you go out and do grid work out and about, it's very, very effective when you can stabilize it with 3 people or more. But 3 is a very, very stable number and shape of the triangle. So I'd like to just, issue that challenge, right? Why not? I think I've issued challenges before on the podcast. Let's do that. Let's all set that intention. Like, how can we do sonic grid work? And also, how can we refine our use of language? How can we help unify and infuse our common vocabulary with unity consciousness wherever we are and whatever we're doing? We can first of all set that intention that will happen. We can also be more impeccable with our word or precise with our particular language and be in integrity whenever we open our mouth. Sometimes it requires less talking. Sometimes it requires pausing and silence. And you've noticed I do that in my podcast more and more and more. Wow. What an incredible time to be on the planet. What a phenomenal era we are in, and we are co-creating. We are making it so magnificent. We are the ones making it this spectacular phase of Gaia's growth and evolution. We're doing this. We're carrying this out, along with lots of others. When I say we is like star ancestors, earth ancestors, elementals, any and all beings who have had any connection to Gaia. This whole collective ascension process being supported above and below and side to side, all the ways. My friends, I am sending you so much love, as always, and reminding you that I am you, and you are me, and we are we. Until next time, we are complete, and so it is.